All right, so here we go. Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to the presentation. Now we're live. Now we're ready to rock into the roll. And happy Friday to you. Hopefully you're having a fantastic Friday wherever you are in this beautiful world. Appreciate, oh yeah, we got to put sub chat on. We're not going to let, Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Janelle. Thank you. Very kind. Some beautiful gifts. I appreciate that. So everybody, listen, if you want to hang out with us for a little while, we would love to have you stay with us and chill out and just have a good time. And that's what we're doing this evening. It is Paranormal Friday. Friday, where this is the only time of the week where we dedicate to the paranormal. Thank you. So we have just a good time. We just chill. It's a chill out night. It's a chill out night. But I want you to make sure you go to the Unexplained Network, everybody. First, make sure you do that. Really important. The presentation is, of course, being aired there. And if you're interested, you can head on over yonder to the unxnetwork.com. unxnetwork.com is, that's where the show's airing there. And also, if you want to go to my website, you certainly can do so. Bishop James Long, LONG.com. And head on over to that site. Check it out. If you're really bored, have nothing else better to do on a Friday night. But I want you to make sure you purchase all those books, every one of those books. All the proceeds goes to our friends, the MKS Kids Foundation. It's an orphanage that we are partnering with. So we love partnering with them and helping them out. So you can help them as well by buying the books. Buy all the books. Yeah, get them. Buy them today. And hey, I think it's fantastic that our community is supporting the MKS Kids Foundation. It's always nice to be able to know that you're helping. And also, if you can go to, if you want to, well, thank you there, Corrine. Thank you. If you want to, head over to the bishopjameslong.com and click on the fundraiser link. There are two folks that we're trying to help. Now, one is Bishop Campbell. Bishop Campbell, he's been in ministry for a very long time. He has never received a salary from being ministry. He does this 100% free. He's been in ministry for a very, very long time, and he doesn't charge. He hasn't charged, and he and his wife are having some health issues, and they're having some car issues. So if you would like to help him, that information is there. And of course, if you would like to help the MKS directly, well, you can certainly go to bishopjameslong.com and click on the fundraiser link. And when you do that, scroll down, and you can help both of them there. Now, if you want to go to the church's site, that's far more important. That's usocc.org. usocc.org. And that is the church's website. And by the way, we're going to have our night prayer coming up at 10 p.m. So in 2 hours. So hopefully you'll join us over there as well. Yeah, we have a lot going on. Well, thank you. And for those of you offering gifts on TikTok, thank you very much. Basically, I turn around, and once a month, whenever MKS is on, I jump in and I just flood them with gifts, and there we go. So we have you can't. I understand. Oh, poor Nicholas. Yeah, he's Nicholas is he delivers for a particular company, and man, he's got they give him 500 stops in one day. It's insane. It is insane. It really is. I could not do it. My OCD would drive me absolutely insane. I could not imagine loading the truck in that way to where it's organized, because I would get so lost. I would deliver a package on one end of the city, and then go back to the other one and realize that I had 4 more on the other one. I would just it would not be a good job for me. Not at all. Not at all. I'll stick to theology. And there we go. So look, we have a lot going on in the world. I know there's a lot of people who are stressed right now and anxious because of the craziness of the world. I get it. We all understand. But I think this is the time for an hour or 40 minutes or so. Just don't worry about any of that stuff. Just put that all out of your mind. It'll be there. Believe me, it'll be there after the show's over tonight. It'll be there. All the worry, all the stress, it'll be there. So just kind of like say, that's it. I'm not going to focus on the world. I'm not going to focus on the anxiety. I'm not going to focus on the stress. So what we're going to do tonight, though, is we're going to be focusing on something scary. Cue the music. Da-da-da-dum. You know, one thing that I want to talk about and go into more detail is historical cases of possession, not only of individual, but also of a community. And I think it's important because people need, I want to take Hollywood out of it and kind of give you an idea of what's real versus what is Hollywood. What is, you know, what we do as clergy, as exorcists, and what we don't do. Because a lot of it is just, it's so silly, some of these movies. And it drives me crazy. Absolutely crazy. So I want to go into this presentation. For those of you who are new, this is the only time of the week. So I don't want to hear any complaints, otherwise I'll block you. It's the only time of the week where we spend an hour and 40 minutes on the paranormal. The rest of the week, we're talking theology, Bible study, and night prayer. So one night a week, we have a secular presentation where we talk everything paranormal. That's it. Very simple. Let's start with the first case, everybody. So tonight, we trace a very dark, forgotten chapter from the colonial frontier, an account that is shrouded in fear, superstition, something far beyond human understanding. So I'm going to take you back with me to 1764, to the isolated outpost of the New Mexico colony, where reports of unexplainable horrors, demonic possession, exorcism shook the very foundation of the settlement. This was not just a one-person individual. This was not an individualistic issue. No, this was an entire colony was affected by this. So this isn't just history. It's a story of evil that refused to die, of shadows that could not be banished, and a story that actually lingers like a bad dream. So prepare yourself, because what you're about to hear is real tonight. At least as real as the whispers in the dark. So let me set the scene for everybody. It's 1764. The Spanish Empire's northern frontier, what we now call New Mexico, it was a rugged, unforgiving landscape. The land is cracked and arid, dotted with mesas, deep canyons. And it also had sparse settlements surrounded by hostile wilderness. So the settlers, they are hardy, they're mostly Spanish colonists, Catholic missionaries, indigenous tribes living side by side. But this land is also steeped in very old legends, whispered stories that were passed down generations of spirits in the mountains, cursed, that's etched into the stones, and the echoes of ancient rituals. Now, the outpost in question, it was a small fortified village, no more than a cluster, of buildings. It wasn't a church. It had a few scattered homes. It wasn't huge. It's remote, so isolated that any news takes weeks to arrive there. Well, the nearest town is miles away and across treacherous terrain. So the settlers were very superstitious, deeply, deeply religious. And they're, wary of the land's dark history. But nothing could prepare them for what was to come. So it began subtly. The Martinez family, early in the year, start to notice strange things happening. So Juan, the youngest child, is no longer himself. His eyes were once bright, full of life, turned dark. Like black marbles reflecting no light, his behavior becomes erratic. And he whispers to himself in strange voices, words that no one recognizes, words that seem to like hiss and scratch at the back of the throat. and his small hands began to tremble uncontrollably. He often just stares into space, as if seeing something that nobody else can. Now, at first, when we're in the 21st century, we may think, well, is that a seizure? Because it certainly does sound like or reflect maybe the symptoms of one. But his mother, Maria, recalls nights where Juan would wake suddenly, his eyes wide open, his face twisted in terror. And then she would find him clutching his chest, trembling, eyes darting wildly as if pursued by unseen monsters. Now, when I first read this case, I thought, okay, that's a simple explanation. These are seizures. No question about it. I mean, you got clutched hands. I used to teach kids with behavior and learning disabilities, and I had many kids that were who had seizures. So when I first read about this case, I immediately thought those are seizures. And when you're in the 18th century, yeah, those can be kind of scary because you don't know a lot about what are seizures. They didn't know. So one night, Juan screams, a blood-curdling sound that echoes through the walls. His body thrashes violently, convulsing, as if, being seized by invisible claws. His skin turns pale. They would describe it as translucent, and his mouth opens in a silent scream. Again, I'm thinking seizure. Then, the marks. Small, irregular scars that appeared overnight, like burns or scratches. But no one saw anyone do them. They seemed to appear out of nowhere. Sometimes they'd be gone by morning. Now, there is a term called dermatographia. And dermatographia is when you have markings or scratches or something like this will appear on the body. So I'm still, when I read this, I think, okay, well, I can still maybe explain this away. So the local healer, it's an old indigenous shaman, was called in. And she examined Juan and muttered darkly about an evil spirit, something evil that had latched onto him, feeding off of his fear. So desperation drives the community to seek help beyond their own faith because nothing seemed to work. And they send a message to the nearby mission, summoning Father Miguel. He's a man known for his unwavering faith, but also haunted by nightmares of darkness. So he arrives with a small group of friars and acolytes, carrying relics, crosses, holy water. The journey was perilous, rough terrain, unpredictable weather, and of course also the ever-present sense that something was watching them. So the outpost atmosphere, it thickens with dread. The air begins to feel heavy, oppressive, like a storm was gathering. And Father Miguel and his team prepare for the exorcism, setting up candles, holy symbols, relics. And the villagers actually gather. They were nervous, and they began to pray. And the night was silent except for the crackling of the burning herbs and the distant howl of wolves. So the ritual began at midnight. The room is dimly lit by flickering candles. And Juan is restrained to prevent him from injuring himself or others. His body is trembling violently, muscles tense, corded like a bowstring. His eyes, once vacant, now become, they describe them as an unnatural fire, like a swirling, like his eyes, like they look like it was fire. And Father Miguel's voice rises in prayer, calling upon saints and angels to cast out the evil. The air grows icy cold, that they could actually see their breath. And suddenly Juan's body arches upward with a violent snap. And his voice shifts deep. It was guttural, almost unrecognizable. And Juan, the demonic, said, "You cannot free me. I am eternal. I am darkness incarnate." So the room obviously is terrified. The people, the very foundation of the trembling, the shadows seem to reach out with hands, So the priests clutch their rosaries and their voice trembling, resolute. The demon or spirit, whatever force it was, begins to scream. Doesn't sound like not a human voice. It's a hideous, otherworldly shriek that echoes in the night. So these are some of people's accounts from their own personal diaries on this. Maria Martinez says Juan's eyes, they turned black, like the abyss. His face twisted in agony. She saw shadows crawl across his skin. And when the exorcism started, he roared like a beast, loud enough to shatter glass. Father Miguel's diary says the demon fought us, screaming in a voice that was not human. I felt as if the darkness itself was alive, trying to consume us. And when we finally thought we had succeeded, Juan collapsed, trembling, eyes staring into nothingness. There was an elder there, and according to locals, he says he saw shadows slither across the walls, and they moved like liquid. And then sometimes he said he would catch a glimpse of a figure, black and faceless, standing outside the candlelight just watching them. So even after the exorcism, the darkness did not leave. The land itself seemed to hold a malevolent presence. People reported hearing whispers in the night, voices calling their names, voices that sounded like Juan's, but twisted and mocking. Now, a lot of people say that they will see shadow. They saw shadow figures, a lot of them, just always out of reach. Sleep became impossible for most of the people there. So children and adults alike experienced nightmares. Many saw black figures. Juan's behavior changed permanently. And though physically recovered, his eyes remained haunted, like vacant. He would sometimes stare at nothing and mouthing silent words. The community grew paranoid, and many refused to sleep alone. Some claimed to see the unexplainable figure standing silently in the windows watching. This is I mean, if you're you got to think about this. This is in 1790s. That would be terrifying for anyone to see. And over the decades, stories grew darker. Some say the demon or spirit, whatever it was only temporarily banished, that it still lurks, waiting beneath the surface of the land. Local legends actually speak of the shadow ones, entities that crawl from the dark when the moon is thin, whispering promises of power or even death. There are reports there of ghostly apparitions, figures cloaked in black, red glowing eyes, moving through the ruins at night. And some say they are the spirits of those who failed to banish the evil. So in the land itself, many believed it's cursed, imbued with a dark energy. Yeah, I mean, so what really happened there in 1764? Was it a demon? An ancient spirit awakened in the land, a portal? Some believe the land itself is haunted by a malevolent intelligence, something that feeds on fear, waiting for the right moment to return. And the exorcism may have pushed the evil back temporarily, but it's still there beneath the surface, watching and waiting. And so if you venture into the remote parts of New Mexico, beware. Locals will tell you, listen closely at night. You might hear whispers carried on the wind or skinwalkers, or catch a fleeting shadow slipping past the firelight. Some darkness refuses to stay dead. What's so terrifying about this story is that it's based on a true story. And when I first read about this and started trying to dig some more information, it's really hard to find. I really honestly thought that this was easily dismissed as grand mal epilepsy. But after some of the other reports of the locals and allegedly from this priest's diary, this was more than seizure. So I think there was something going on. I want to talk about the next exorcism that actually took place in 1928. And this is a very I don't know if you've ever heard of this exorcism, but Emma Schmidt. So, yeah, and I'll get to your questions. I'm going to do this presentation first, and then we'll chat about, and I'll talk a few things, a little bit about some of my cases. So we're going to. This was a night that was shrouded in darkness, terror, unexplainable. So just, your dog just started snoring and scared you to death. That's funny. So I just asked, listen carefully to this story, because I'm about to tell you, it's not just a story. It is a window into a realm that most dare never to look into. So in 1928, a modest farmhouse nestled deep in the Pennsylvania countryside, a young woman named Emma Schmidt was seized by a force so malevolent it defied reason. What followed was an exorcism so horrifying it left scars on the soul of those who actually witnessed it. Perhaps, in the whole town. So I'm going to take you into this night, through every shadow, every scream, every whisper of darkness. And I warn you, some of you might haunt your dreams, because this is a scary story. So 1928, Emma Schmidt is a girl she's 19 years old. She's living on the edge of a quiet Pennsylvania farm. Her world is simple: growing crops, tending to her chickens, singing hymns in the evening glow. But beneath that peaceful surface, something dark was stirring. So the farmhouse is aged, weathered wood, creaking boards, walls thick with the scent of earth and old memories. Thank you. And outside, the wind whispers through the cracks, carrying with it the scent of damp leaves, and even distant thunderstorms. Inside, the air is heavy with the smell of burning wood, and the aroma of lavender from a little faded sachet tucked into her pillowcase. Emma's eyes are bright, full of life, curiosity, hope. She was a good kid. Something begins to twist that innocence. It started subtly. Objects shifting slightly out of place when no one is looking. Shadows flickering at the edge of her vision. She feels it. That icy feeling, like something is trying to pry into her mind. One night, Emma wakes in the dark. Her bedroom was cold as ice. Her breath forms fog in the air, and she sees it. A shadow. Tall, shifting just beyond her window. She blinks, it's gone. But the feeling lingers, a presence, a whispering voice, like the rustle of dead leaves. When I read that, I thought, okay, this could be sleep paralysis. So her family dismisses her fears at first. They say it's the wind or her imagination. But Emma's nightmares grow darker. She started having visions of black twisting figures crawling across her walls, whispering secrets in voices that sound like a hiss of snakes. And then the unthinkable happens. Emma is found in her bed, trembling, eyes wide, thank you, and unseen. Her face is streaked with tears and dirt. Her body tense, as if she's being held by invisible chains. Her voice is hoarse, whispering words no one can understand. It was guttural, like a growl. So Emma's nightmare becomes a nightmare reality. She begins to convulse violently. They describe it as her limbs jerking with unnatural force, muscles twisting beneath her skin like strings being pulled. Her body arches and trembles as if she's fighting unseen demons. Her voice, once sweet and clear and soft, changes. It deepens, echoes, like a guttural snarl. She speaks in tongues. She speaks Latin and other words that seem to make no sense at all. She screams, evil, darkness, I am eternal. She screamed this, and then there was a low, like raspy voice. Her eyes turned solid black, which I've seen. They describe it as a pull of darkness, like an oily sheen What I saw in my first exorcism was it looked like a mirror. I could see my reflection. And I'll talk about that after this, or after these presentations. And when she screams, it wasn't human. It was blood-curdling. Unearthly cries that echoes through the house, shattering windows. They even said they could feel it in the walls. Now, her family is obviously frantic. They praying aloud as her body just contorts unnaturally. The room feels suffocating, they described. The air thick with sulfur or decay. Shadows begin to grow longer and darker, stretching across the ceiling. One night, she's found curled on the floor, trembling. Her skin is icy to the touch, as they describe it, and covered in sweat. Her lips are cracked. Her eyes were bloodshot. She was just staring into nothingness. She whispers in a voice that was not her own, "The darkness is here. It will never leave. It is mine now." So the air turns cold, so cold that the breath, you can see that it turns into mist. And the faint scent of rot and sulfur began to fill the entire room. That's common. Even to the point where it was making the family's stomachs turn. Every sound, the creak of the floorboards, the faint hum of the wind, it was amplified. So desperate, Emma's family reaches out for help, and they summon a priest. It's a man known for unwavering faith and experience in confronting the supernatural. He arrives at dawn, shrouded in a heavy cloak, clutching a crucifix, holy water, relics. And the house was described as feeling alive with dread. The air is thick with a scent of incense and sweat and dread. And shadows flicker at the edge of vision like silent predators. So Emma is restrained on a battered wooden cot. Her body is tense and trembling. They described her face as being gaunt, cheeks sunken, eyes dark, pools of malevolence. Her breathing is ragged, which is common. Her chest rising and falling, it's laborious. And then Father Burke begins the ritual, reciting Latin prayers, crossing himself, sprinkling holy water on her forehead. His voice is calm, but beneath it, there's a tremor of fear. The room plunges into darkness as the candles flicker. And so he starts, in nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. It says, "We command thee, unclean spirit, to leave this vessel." The ice then turns icy. The air is described as turning completely icy. The shadows seem to ripple, and the temperature drops. Frost forms on the windows, the walls, and even Emma's skin begins to feel so cold as they described it as being put in the ice box. So at this time, the clock strikes midnight. The room is shrouded in darkness. There was a few flickering candles. The air is oppressive. And again, they describe the cold as a biting, like it bites into the skin. And Emma's body shudders violently. Her limbs twist, muscles rippling beneath her skin. And her face contorts into a mask of pure agony, which I've seen. Her features are distorted, which I've seen. Her mouth open in a silent scream. It's very difficult to explain what I mean by contort. It is so unnatural, and it depends on the demonic itself. But I've seen a person, the facial features, it is so unnatural. It's almost like a slithering, like a snake. And I can't describe it. You have muscles here pushing here, muscle pushing down. It's the strangest. It is a very odd experience, because when you think of a smile, go up, but this go down and go up, and it's just a complete contortion of the face. And suddenly her voice deepens in a very guttural growl, and an inhuman sound echoes like the roar of a beast. She screams, "You will not prevail. I am eternal. Darkness is my throne." So her eyes, black voids, they described it as swirling with oily darkness. Now, I've never seen swirling, but I've seen complete solid black that I could see my reflection. And then shadows seemed to seep from her mouth. They described it like a dark smoke. And they crawl along the walls. They saw the shadows. But that, again, you have limited lighting. The candles began to flicker violently. Each flame was a tiny beacon. And then the only sounds are her screams, raw, primal. It really does sound like the way to describe it sounds like a dying animal. That's a good way to put it. And so the priests then they continue to prayer and invoking God's power, and the room vibrates, and a scent of sulfur and decay fills the room. It's very common for that, and this is why many times, like for example, as a chaplain, as a police chaplain, when I go to a location where someone has been deceased for a while, that smell is pretty intense. And so the trick is to put Vicks right inside the nostrils to try to keep that smell away, because that will stay with you for weeks. I mean, it's just that it's really, really bad. And so when you're performing an exorcism, many times that room will have that smell. And so I always put Vicks, because you never know. Her body begins to convulse, muscles rippling with unnatural strength, which I've seen. Her face twists in a grotesque mask of rage, pain, and malice, which I've seen. Her tongue rolls out and snarls. I've seen it looks almost like a snake. And then suddenly, deafening silence. Shadows retreat momentarily, and as if it's just waiting. So this is what I've done some research on this, and allegedly Emma's mom said her eyes, they were black pits. Her screams pierced her ears. She described them like 1,000 devils crying out. Father Burke said it was more beast than a woman, and its voice was a chorus of the damned, as he described it. So the night ended, but the darkness did not retreat. Emma survived, but she was forever scarred. Her eyes, once bright, now kind of held a void, like a black hole. She would wake up at night trembling, her screams echoing through the silent house. The house itself seemed cursed, almost like shadows lingering in every corner. The town refused to approach the farm. Rumors spread, tales of black figures seen lurking in the woods. Townspeople say there was like ghostly voices calling from the shadows. And some swore they saw Emma's figure wandering the fields. And deep down, everyone knew the darkness was not gone, just been driven underground. Now, decades have passed since then, but the story endures. Some say the evil was only driven into the shadows, like an ancient force that lives beneath the earth. And in the depths of the night, many people claim to see the flickering lights in the woods, glowing eyes watching, shadows that move the life of their own. And Emma, well, she become really a symbol of darkness, unfortunately, in this situation. Not a whole lot has been written about her since. I think based on what I have seen, and it's not a whole lot of information out there, I think she was legitimately possessed. I really don't want to give the city of this, because then a lot of people will go to the town, and then so it's just in the outskirts of Pennsylvania. And I'll talk about a couple of my cases that I worked. I've talked once about my first case where I was the assistant, And that was a case that was a case that I learned a lot, a whole lot. So we'll talk about that momentarily. Again, thank you, everybody. I appreciate you all being here. I'm Bishop Long. For those of you just joining us, I serve as the presiding bishop for the United States Old Catholic Church. I also serve as an exorcist. I was valiantly trained, studied in the Roman seminary for 6 years, received my minor orders. As of today, I performed 35 exorcisms on individuals who are valiantly possessed. I do work with psychologists who offer a psychiatric evaluation prior to me performing an exorcism. This is what I mean by documented exorcisms. I've blessed thousands of people's homes through the years, thousands. And so I've been doing this for 25 years. And I never charge. I've never charged ever. I could. I know people who charge $5,000 for an exorcism. I've never charged ever. The hardest part of this ministry, and I've said this many times, the hardest part of this ministry is being on the phone with the family who are in tears and begging me to get to their home. And then I tell them I can't get there because it costs money. You know, you have to fly, or you have to get a car, or you have to get a hotel. That's not cheap. Santa Claus doesn't pay for it. And so at one time I put $15,000 on my credit card to help people. So when people say, oh, Bishop Long, you do this for fame and fortune. If I don't charge, you can't do anything for fame. And you don't do things for fame and fortune by putting $15,000 on your credit card to help for free. Doesn't make a lot of sense. So I tell you this because also I receive no stipend or salary as a bishop. None. In the United States Old Catholic Church, we don't raise money. We don't raise money for the church. That's not what we do. All of our clergy fund their own ministry with their own money. Now, I tell you this, not because I'm looking for accolades. I'm telling you this because there's no ulterior motive for me telling you what I've seen. I'm not trying to sell you anything that's going to benefit me. Would you say, but you have books? Yes. And that money goes to the MKS Kids Foundation. You say, yeah, but you're receiving gifts on TikTok. Yes. And I turn right around and I give that to the MKS Kids Foundation when they go live. So there's no ulterior motive for me to tell you about these things other than to tell you that they exist, and I can tell you what I've experienced. Now, for those who believe, great. For those who don't, that's your choice too. But I'm not here to convince you that demons exist. I'm here to help the families who know they do. And so you can take what I tell you as this is the truth, or you can say this is nonsense, and that's fine. Either way, it doesn't invalidate the fact that I've still performed 35 exorcisms. Now, people ask me all the time, do I record them? Yes. You have to. And I have to because there's a real possibility of the person expiring, having a stroke, having a heart attack. So I need to make sure that everything is recorded to establish that everything is being done properly. I always have someone who's medically trained. They're on the scene to monitor the vitals of the possessed. I am not trained in the medical field. So I don't know if someone is going into a heart attack or stroke. But you have to remember that a person who's gotten to the stage of possession, their body has gone through extreme trauma. And a body can only take so much. So would you ever see an exorcism? Never. You'll never, ever, ever see one of my videos. Ever. Why? And I don't understand why anybody would want that. You would never want clergy to record one of your family members under the stage of possession, and then clergy filming it, and then putting it on social media for likes and making a buck off of your family members suffering. So there's no way in hell I would ever consider publicizing or putting any of my exorcisms ever on, ever. Because I value I value my eternal inheritance far too much for making $1 off someone's. I would never do this. That to me is unethical. So, for those of you that continue to ask me, well, show the video. The answer is no. In as much as I would never show a video if your family member had an exorcism, I would never do that to your family member. So, that will never happen. I want to talk about another exorcism in 1788. And then I'll talk about my some of my a little bit later on. This story, well, yeah, suit either, but I mean, the recording is mine. It belongs to the church. So for me, when I pass on, whoever the presiding bishop is, it will go to them. But they are to be sealed. They are never to be released. So this man is George Lucans. He was a man seized by a force so malevolent that people described it as shattering his mind, his body, even his soul. And so what transpired that night, rather? Was it a demon? Was it madness? Perhaps something far worse. I'm going to take you into this night, step by blood-stained step. So 1788, George Lucans was a man of humble means. He was a laborer, strong but gentle. He was a devoted husband, father of several children. His life was simple. He worked in the fields, tending to his animals, praying every morning and night in the village church. His house, I mean, it was modest, cracked stone walls, a thatched roof, hearth crackled with warmth. And the air was filled with the scent of damp earth and wood smoke and honey and bread. His days, they were predictable. They were routine until the darkness crept in. And it began subtly. So at first, whispers, soft. They couldn't decipher what it was saying, like rustling of dead leaves in a breeze. And then shadows flickered at the edge of his vision. And one night, George awoke, trembling, clutching his head. And his face was pale, sweat pouring down his brow, and his eyes were darting wildly, unseeing, staring into the dark. His voice, once calm, became rough, trembling, almost like a whisper. And George told his wife, "They're here. I see them. They're coming." Now, Elizabeth, which was his wife, found him trembling in bed. Eyes were wide open, unfocused. He was muttering strange words. She shook him, but he wouldn't respond. He would only tremble. So over the following days, his behavior grew stranger, and he would scream silently in the night. His eyes rolled back, muscles became rigid. His face would twist in a grimace of pain. Speech became garbled, words that nobody understood. Again, perhaps epilepsy. His limbs twisted unnaturally, and his face clawed. His hands clawed at the air, like he was fighting invisible chains. His family watched in horror. Again, as I read that, I thought perhaps maybe this could be seizure or epilepsy. But it was no longer just a mental torment. Something was tearing at his flesh. So he would convulse violently. The muscles were spasming as if seized by a malevolent force. His limbs jerked uncontrollably. His head would tilt back with like a sickening crack and then snap forward with an unnatural jerking motion. And again, this was a hardworking farmer. No problems, no history of this prior to this. And his face was, once kindly became a mask of rage. His jaws clenched so tightly that his teeth ground audibly. And his eyes, once blue, became like black orbs, reflecting nothing but malevolence. He would scream like a guttural roar that pierced the silence. It's so loud that they described like the house felt like it was trembling. His voice would shift. One moment, a hoarse whisper, like he could barely even talk. The next, a deep screaming growl. The wife describes the house as growing icy, so cold, and the breath of everyone present turned to mist. I mean, they actually could see it. His skin turned like a whitish, deathly color look to it. And he would just pour out sweat. I mean, even when it was cold, it would just sweat profusely. So desperate and terrified, his family summoned a reverend in that area, known for confronting the unexplainable. He arrived at dawn. He had holy water, crucifix. The house was described as smelling of dampness and mold. It's like something darker. Shadows flickered in the corners. George was restrained on a rough wooden bed, and his body trembled uncontrollably. Muscles began to spasm. His face was gaunt. The clergy described it as skeletal. And they began praying deliverance over him and using holy water. His voice was steady but strained. And the priest began, or the clergy rather, it wasn't a priest. The air grew very heavy, thick. And the candles would keep flickering. They would light them and then they would go right back out. And they'd light them and go right back out. And of course, they had windows. So they closed all the windows, everything. And then they would light it. And there was no wind coming in that house. And it would just go right back out. So they couldn't keep the lights on. The house silence was broken only by the prayers and George's labored breathing. So the air is thick, and George's body suddenly stiffens, like muscles locking tight, and his limbs jerk with an unnatural strength. His head tilts back, neck arching as an impossible angle, and then his neck snaps forward, and they heard a crack, like they had thought that he had broken his neck. His face began to twist and contort unnaturally. His mouth was open wide. The candles again continue to go in and out, in and out. And the clergy began calling upon St. Michael. And the wind, they described as the wind really picking up outside, just like a storm, but there was no storm. And his face began to contort even more, rage, pain. He began to scream. And they saw shadows. They would see like shadows, like they described it as creepies, as these like creepy crawlies, if you will, climbing on the walls. And allegedly, according to legend or urban legend in that area, allegedly, the night ended and there was a loud scream that he let out, and everything just went silent. His body was fragile. He was trembling. And the house, at that time, everything just kind of stopped. Just stopped. George allegedly was never the same. His body became very fragile and trembled a lot. The town, of course, they whispered, and the darkness still lurked there. Decades have passed, but the story endures. Some say evil was still there. It was never taken away. There were some woods in that area, and George's house and villagers allegedly see lights and hear screams or growls in that area as well. But nonetheless, many people are absolutely convinced that it's still there. I want to now go into some more very, very maybe well-known cases, but perhaps maybe you've never heard about them before. I want to talk about Michael Taylor. Michael Taylor's possession case is very intriguing. There's a lot of theories on this, and I have my own, but we're gonna talk about that in just a second. So Michael Taylor possession case is one of the most infamous instances where claims of demonic possession have intersected with psychological distress and tragedy. So this case occurred in the small town of West Yorkshire, England, in 1974. The incident resulted in a brutal unaliving that shocked the community, raised profound questions about the nature of possession, mental health, and the responsibilities of religious legal system. So Michael was a 31-year-old man. He was married to Christine. They had 5 children. By all accounts, he was a mild-mannered, loving husband, father. He worked as a butcher. Now, he was also, this little town was a close-knit community, strong evangelical presence. And during this period, charismatic Christian movements involving, speaking in tongues and exorcisms, they were popular at that time in the Anglican Church. So Michael reportedly suffered from depression, exhibited signs of potential mental health crisis, including erratic behavior and mood swings. So he became involved with a local charismatic group, a church group led by a lay preacher named Marie Robinson. And these gatherings, they were intense. They featured emotional displays, claims of divine experiences. Well, Taylor's involvement with the group, and particularly with his relationship with Marie Robinson, led to marital tension. And during a meeting, Michael publicly accused Robinson of having inappropriate intentions, which marked a turning point in his behavior. And he subsequently experienced a convulsive outburst, which some people interpreted that as a sign of possession. So concerned about Michael's behavior, leaders from the church decided that an exorcism was necessary. And the exorcism took place October 5th and 6th in 1974. It was conducted by Father Peter Vincent and Reverend Raymond Smith at St. Thomas's Church. Well, the ritual lasted all night and was marked by dramatic attempts to exorcise more than 40 demons allegedly possessing Taylor. These included demonic entities associated with behaviors like anger, lust, and while some demons were reportedly cast out, the exorcism was not completed. The priests were exhausted. So Michael returned home in the early hours of October 7th, still believed to be under demonic possession of several demons. And soon after, he violently attacked and unalived his wife, Christine. He inflicted a frenzied assault, viciously tearing at her with his hands and using a weapon. Following the unaliving, he wandered the streets, naked, covered in blood, before being apprehended by the police. So Michael Taylor was arrested and charged with unaliving of his wife. His defense pleaded insanity, arguing that he was the victim of a religiously induced psychotic state. So the jury accepted the defense. Taylor was found not guilty of unaliving by reason of insanity. He was committed to Broadmoor Hospital, high-security psychiatric facility, and later to other psychiatric institutions. The case sparked significant controversy and debate about the role of religious interventions in mental health crisis, leading to calls for more oversight and understanding of how religious rituals and beliefs intersect with psychological well-being. This case, in my opinion, serves as a complex intersection between mental illness, religious belief, and the concept of possession. It poses questions about how society differentiates between religious experiences and symptoms of mental health disorders. The involvement of the church and its decision to perform an exorcism highlights issues regarding the responsibility of potential legal liabilities of religious leaders in cases of psychological distress. The incident left a lasting impact on the Taylor family and the surrounding community, illustrating the destructive potential when mental health issues are not adequately addressed. So the Michael Taylor possession case remains a pretty poignant example of the dangers of neglecting mental health in favor of supernatural explanations. It underscores the need of cooperation between religious entities and mental health professionals. This is why it's very important. When people tell me that they need an exorcism, I tell them I don't perform them on command. And I think that's really crucial to understand. If you perform an exorcism on someone who has dissociative identity disorder, which is otherwise known as mental or multiple personalities, you can create another identity. If you have a person who suffers from paranoid schizophrenia, you could put them in a manic state. You could feed into this psychosis. This is why I require psychological. It's non-negotiable. I don't even speak to the person without them having a psychological evaluation first. That's a requirement. And so people who perform exorcisms on individuals without having a psychological evaluation, it's inappropriate. And it's very, very dangerous. And it's dangerous because of this. And I see so many clergy. You know, you see these great, big, huge traveling whatever show or revival, whatever they want to call them. And, you know, they're calling people up performing exorcisms on these people with no psychological evaluation. None. That is wrong. That is absolutely wrong. And it should never, ever occur. But you see it all the time. It is. It is exploitation. Yeah, in all cases, I require psychological. The next exorcism I want to talk to you about is Anna Eklund. It is a very well-documented case of demonic possession that took place in the early 20th century. It's considered one of the most famous exorcisms in the United States. So the exorcism of Anna Eklund, it's a seminal case in the study of demonic possession and exorcism rituals within the Christian tradition. This case offers insight into the beliefs and practices surrounding exorcisms. So Anna Eklund, she was born Emma Schmidt in 1882 in Marathon, Wisconsin. Anna is a pseudonym used to protect her identity. It's been released now since. She grew up in a very devout Catholic family, and Anna began exhibiting signs of possession at age 14. And this included aversion to religious objects, inability to enter churches, speaking in tongues or languages unknown to her. This is very common for a person who is under the stage of oppression to begin to push away from religious objects. That's what I mean by an aversion. So they don't want anything to do with it. This happened also to Annalise Mikkel, otherwise known as Annalise Mikkel, Emily Rose. So Anna Eklund, her name is Emma Schmidt. Emma Schmidt. So she began exhibiting signs of possession at age 14. And her problems reportedly began after her father and aunt both believed to have been engaged in witchcraft, participating in curses, allegedly cursed her. So in 1912, a Capuchin priest with experience in exorcism, performed the first exorcism on Anna. Temporary relief was achieved, but symptoms returned. So by 1928, Anna's condition had worsened. And Father Reisingers, along with other church authorities, decided to perform a second, more comprehensive exorcism. And the exorcism was conducted at a convent in Earling, Iowa, to ensure privacy and an controlled environment. So the exorcism lasted from August 18th to December the 23rd, 1928, occurring in multiple sessions over this time. Yeah, August 18th to December 23rd. Anna reportedly displayed supernatural strength, spoke foreign language, revealed knowledge of hidden secrets, typical symptoms of possession. Levitation occurred, unnatural physical contortions, aversion to religious paraphernalia, and during the session, multiple demonic entities were said to manifest, which I'm not going to mention their names. The exorcism was a harrowing process that involved strenuous prayer and ritual by Father Reisinger with an assistance from other clergy and nuns. So after weeks of intense session, the exorcism was deemed successful. Anna reportedly reverted to a state of peace with the symptoms of possession fully alleviated. Little, unfortunately, is known about the later years of Anna's life following the exorcism, but records suggest that she lived quietly without further incidents. The case was among the first major exorcism in the United States to gain significant attention, highlighting the church's understanding of and approach to possession during that era. It also sparked discussion about mental health. But Anna never exhibited any type of mental health. She did not have a history of mental health. So the exorcism of Anna Eklund has been recounted in books, documentaries, spiritual warfare. It remains a reference point in popular culture. It is compared to other famous cases like the exorcism of Anneliese Michel. So the exorcism of Anna Eklund, it illustrates the complex interplay between faith, psychodynamics involved in cases of alleged dynamic possession. Now, skeptics may view such phenomena through a psychological lens. Okay, but a person who has psychological illness does not cause you to levitate. Psychological illness does not cause you to have the ability of what's called retrocognition or prognostication. So, and I'll explain that and what those mean in a second. Yeah, these are, and that's not all. There was a Clara German Seeley. She is said to have been possessed when she was 16 years old. This was in South Africa. And she was 16 at St. Michael's Mission in Natal, South Africa. So she was an orphan. She was baptized as an infant. And at the age of 16, she allegedly made a pact with Satan. And that is said to cause her demonic possession. Clara later revealed that this information to her confessor. And in an account, written by a nun, Clara was said to be able to speak languages of which she had no previous knowledge. And this fact was also witnessed by others who recorded that she understood Polish, German, French, Norwegian, and all other languages. The nun reported that Clara demonstrated clairvoyance by revealing the most intimate secrets and transgressions of people with whom she had no contact. That's called retrocognition. So retrocognition is when demons are able to tell you your sins. It's not because they can read your mind. It's because sins fall under what's called ordinary demonic activity. So through temptation, we sin. So demons know our sin by obviously throwing the temptation in our path, and we fall. So they know that, and that's called retrocognition. This is why an exorcist and those involved in an exorcism will always go to confession prior to performing an exorcism. We take that away because obviously that can be detrimental. You have someone who is with you, and suddenly this demon starts spouting out all these things this person has done to try to cause problems with the exorcism. There's also called prognostication. And prognostication is also the ability to tell the future. But they're also, not only that, but it's the ability to tell you what you have. Like, for example, if you have holy water in your hand, and let's say it's tap water, and you just want to test the person to see if, in fact, the individual is truly possessed. Because I've had that, I've had tap water where I say, okay, this is holy water, and when I place this on your forehead, it's going to hurt. I'm just letting you know now, it will hurt. But a demon knows. So I had it and I put it on the forehead, and the person looked at me that was possessed, looked right at me and smiled. That was just smiled. And so the person knew the demon knew that was not blessed holy water. Or for example, if you have a relic and you hold a relic in your hand and the person has no idea, they can't see, the demon will say, You pull out this St. Francis relic. What is that supposed to do? So these are things that a demon will do. They'll also throw the voice. The best way to describe it is if you have like 8D surround sound. Let me see if I can find it on here. Hold on. That's the only way to describe it. I tried to show it one time, but you really have to have earplugs. When you have earplugs, it's pretty amazing. Let's see. I'm trying to find this one particular 8D sound. It's like, yep, that's. I don't know if this is it. Let me see. I'll try to find it. That's the only way that I can describe it to you. Let's see. No, I don't think this is it. No. Don't you hate when you can't find something you're always looking for? Let's try this. Hold on. No, I hate that. Yeah, okay, like this. So you can't really tell. All right, so you can't really tell with this. If you put headsets on, and it's this is called Musica 8D. I'll let you guys see it. Musica 8D. There it is. Musica 8D. That's what it looks like. If you put your headsets on, what you'll have is when the demonic will scream, it will sound like it's right behind you. And then it'll be over here. And then it goes in front of you. And then it just goes all around. It disorient. Hold on one second. I might lose you guys for 2 seconds on TikTok because hold on one second. I don't know why it does that all the time. I hate that. I've got to figure out why it does that. It always goes dark. But anyway, that's the only way really to describe it. I can't describe it any other way than just that. So if you go online and you put your headsets on, that's what it would sound like. So let's continue with Clara. So the nun reported Clara demonstrated clairvoyance, and Clara could not bear the presence of blessed objects and seemed to be imbued with extraordinary strength and ferocity, often hurling nuns about the convent rooms and beating them up. The nun reported that the girl's cries had a savage bestiality that astonished those all around her. And in regards to the girl's voice, an attending nun even wrote, and these are their words, the savage bestiality. That's what they say. It says the nun reported no animal had ever made such sounds, neither the lions of East Africa nor the angry bulls. At times it sounded like a veritable herd of wild beasts orchestrated by Satan had formed a hellish choir. That's according to a nun at St. Michael's Mission. So the girl, according to some, was said to have levitated 5 feet in the air, sometimes vertically, sometimes horizontally. When sprinkled with holy water, the girl is reported to have come out of the state of her satanic possession. According to a Lutheran pastoral handbook, one possessing these symptoms is an indication that an individual is truly possessed. So consequently, 2 Roman Catholic priests were appointed to perform an exorcism on Clara, and the deliverance lasted for 2 days. And during the exorcism, Clara's first action was to knock the Holy Bible from the priest's hand and grab his stole in an attempt to choke him with it. At the end of the exorcism, it was said that the demon was forced out and the girl was healed. So for 6 years, Clara lived a demonic possession-free life. She felt ashamed of her behavior, asking for forgiveness while seeking humble pursuits. She passed away in 1912 from heart failure at age 22. However, history has lost track of and forgotten Clara, in some versions of the story. That's terrible. When you have cases like that, it breaks your heart, or at least it does mine. Anybody with a heart. Okay. Yeah, it's terrible. I'm going to do one more. Are the possessed aware? No. So, Caroline's asking, are the possessed aware of having been taken over by an entity? No. They are aware of what led to the possession, but they are not aware of this. It's almost like they go into a catatonic state, like a sleeping state. They do not remember anything at all of their stage of possession. So let me explain something. It's very important. When you're dealing with possession, thanks, Swiper. When you're dealing with possession, you have what's called demonic infestation. This is how it starts. Let's say you go out to a location. You know that there's allegedly a demonic entity is present. Is anyone here? Can you make a noise? Can you do something? You've given the invitation. The fact that you're there on scene, that's the invitation in of itself. And now you have what's called an attachment. You go home. Now you have infestation. So the demonic has now infested in your home. Religious objects are desecrated. You hear banging sometimes of threes as a mocking of the Trinity. You will sometimes see shadows, shadow people, like a lot of people refer to them as. Sometimes you'll smell sulfur or that rotten smell. Animals are terrified. Animals are terrified. And so, no question, animals know. There's just this feeling of dread. And then you have what's called demonic oppression. Demonic oppression is when it begins to attack you on a physical level. So it begins to bite and scratch and pinch. This is terrifying. You need to remember that, let's say that you're home by yourself, and if you sleep in your bedroom, the door is shut. If you have any lights on the outside, or like a lamp or something, you'll begin to see shadows walking past, breaking the light from your doorway, and you're the only one in there. Or if your lights are all off and you're in your bedroom, you clearly see. Now that your eyes have adjusted, you see shadows walking in your bedroom, sometimes on your ceiling, sometimes on your floor, sometimes on your wall. And what it begins to do is start attacking you on a physical level. This is quite frightening. So it's trying to break down the person's will with the scratching, the biting, the pinching, moving the covers, even pushing you. I've had one case where the person, I can say this, and this is all I'm going to say about this because he's talked about this. Zach had talked about his girlfriend, Zach Biggins, his girlfriend being removed from the bed, thrown from the bed. I'm not going to talk about whether or not I went to his house or not. We're not going there. But I've had cases where people have been thrown from their beds. So again, we're talking about a situation where it's a constant barrage of attacks. Then what you have is called demonic obsession. And demonic obsession is when it begins to interact with a person on an intellectual level. So you begin to hear it. And Annalise McKell Emily Rose, the ex of Emily Rose, she described it as ghastly figure. She would also describe it as she could hear it talking to her and saying terrible things, but she could also smell the breath, the warmth. It was a horrible, deathly smell. That's the way she would describe it. And I've had cases before where people described that they could hear, it's like right in their ear, talking and saying horrible things, and they could smell this putrid smell coming from its breath. Now that the purpose of that is to break down the intellect of the person because you think you're going crazy. So the attacks on the physical level to break your will and the attacks on the intellectual level to break your intellect, once your intellect and will are eradicated, then you can have possession. Understand that possession is a process, and there's what's called transient possession. Now, I've had cases where transient possessions were, in other words, Annalise McKell, Emily Rose, she had transient possession. In other words, the demonic would enter the body and leave at will, but the person always remained in the stage of oppression and obsession because the demonic wants to keep that person's intellect and will at a level to where it can enter and move, enter and leave anytime it wants. So I've had cases where it was transient possession. And then, of course, there's perfect possession where it's in a state where the person has no relief. So my case that I have, spit out frogs, I have had cases of, I've heard of cases of nails. I have never had frogs or nails or anything of this nature. I have had a black substance. It was oily is the only way I could describe it. It looked like oil. I mean, that's the only way to describe it. And originally I thought, maybe, is there something, maybe an internal, I don't know. I didn't, because I'd never seen that before. And it started out with just kind of like a cough and then coughing it out. And then it was just like, a regurgitation. So I don't know what that means, Zanto. So the first time, my first exorcism, I was not the primary. I was the secondary. I was the assistant. And that was the time that I talked about this on the Eli Roth Presents Legion of Exorcists show that I'm on. So during the rite, I lift the eyelids and the eyes. So she's laying down, and it was really. I lift the eyelids, and the eyes were just a solid black, but I could see my reflection. And I always read that could happen. And you can read books on exorcism, you can read on possession, but until you're there, I can't describe the feeling of the room, other than it just felt like a sauna, really, really heavy, just heavy. It was oppressive, and that's the only way to describe the heaviness. It was just. That's the only way I can describe it. The smell was pretty bad, but it was a heaviness in the room. So anyway, I lift the eyelids, and the eyes were a solid black. And I had always read that could happen, but that was the first time I actually experienced it. And I could see my reflection. I saw me in her eyes, or its eyes, and I could not move. I could not move. I couldn't talk. I couldn't say, "Hey, I'm in trouble." Nothing. I was completely catatonic. In that moment, I felt like prey. I felt like I was looking in the eyes of an apex predator, and I was prey. I just felt 100% vulnerable because I couldn't move. I mean, I was catatonic, and I don't know if I was catatonic because of just utter fear or what in the world that was, but shock. Because I mean, when you see it, you hear about it, it's one thing. When you actually see it, it's a different. Not only that, but you also have the heavy oppressiveness in the room. So then the exorcist, the miming, to grab me by my collar and took me out in the room, blessed me. Are you okay? Yep, I'm fine. I'm fine. Okay, so we continued. That's the time where I saw a form of levitation. But the levitation was a very strange levitation, in that it wasn't just like this. She was laying on her back, and I've said this many times. It was like someone had put a rope around her waist and just lifted her up just like this. And you can tell if someone tries to do it because you can see their neck trying to push and their knees bending. It wasn't like that at all. It was like somebody had just lifted her, and I heard her vertebrae, and I thought she broke her back. because it was just that awkward, strange. And I heard that crack in the bed. Oh my gosh, we just, her back is broke. And she just went straight down like that. And we continue the ride. But there was one time that I did an exorcism on someone, and now, so regurgitation does occur. So that, the soup thing, the green pea soup thing. But in this case, it wasn't green soup at all. It was like it looked like oil. And it was rough. Like I said, at first it was a coughing, and then you could see like little black of, specks of oil looking substance there. And then it was just vomit. I mean, just a violent regurgitation of this black substance. So these are things that I've witnessed, and of course, and the screaming, the multiple pitches. So when I see this, I can't. That's why when people say to me, "Well, I don't believe demons exist," well, that's fine. That's, everyone has the right, but to believe what they want to believe. But after what I've seen, I can't deny that possession exists. I just can't. I want to get into our paranormal. I haven't even done any of the articles because I have been jabbering on. And you guys are probably like, okay, we need a break. So let me do this, because I've not done this at all. I'm telling you guys, I'm just chatting. All right, let me do this to everybody, if you don't mind. And if you have, it's just once a week we talk paranormal, guys. It's everybody relax. Okay. Once a week. All right. So let's get into our presentation. You're gonna have nightmares. Hey, let me make this very clear, okay? Possession is rare. That's very important for me to say. Remember, I have performed 35 exorcisms in 25 years. I have, 21,000 emails. I'm telling you, I get emails all the time from people who say that they're possessed. So what you don't do anything that's going to put you in a precarious situation. Do not play with Ouija boards. Friends, I know a lot of people will say, oh, nothing wrong with Ouija boards. I'm telling you, they're telling you incorrectly. Ouija boards are very dangerous. It's not a game. You got to understand that you're communicating with the spirit and you don't even know who you're communicating with. And not only that, but people haven't connected the dots. When you're giving that spirit permission to control your body, to move the planchette, that is a form of possession. Never do this. Seances, stay away from them. Don't, if you're a paranormal, if you enjoy paranormal investigating, just don't go to places. Don't go to places that are known to have demonic activity. Just don't. Leave these things alone. Just leave them alone. Because the problem is it's not a quick fix situation. I worked with somebody for, nearly 3 years. So this is not a quick fix. And, you watch television or you watch a movie and okay, it's over in an hour. Well, that's nice that it's over an hour in a movie, but in real life, it doesn't work that way. So I just strongly encourage you, please just stay away from them. It can be anyone. It can be, when you give the invitation, it's going to accept it. And keep in mind, demonic entities are very patient. So we have to be very careful with, we do something, playing with the Ouija board and we think about nothing. We forget. And then 10 years later, all hell breaks loose in our home. So you just got to remember, they're very patient. All right. I want to go ahead and do this if you don't mind, because we're running out of time. My gosh. All right. Here we go. So this is for our Paranormal Friday shows that we do. We always do our videos, and you guys get to watch the video, and I'll be posting this up on TikTok a little bit later on. All right, everybody, this is your paranormal news of the week. There's an earthquake swarm near Area 51. It fuels new speculation about secret underground testing. So there was a recent cluster of earthquakes near Area 51 that stirred up fresh rumors about what may be happening beneath one of America's most secretive military installations. According to reports, 17 separate earthquakes were detected near the Nevada desert facility, with the strongest reaching a magnitude of 4.4. And the activity occurred only a few miles from the base, which sits inside the Nevada test and training range, roughly 83 miles northwest of Las Vegas. Area 51 has long been surrounded by mystery. Officially, it's a highly restricted United States Air Force facility. Culturally, however, it has become almost legendary, tied for decades to stories about classified aircraft, hidden government projects, UFO rumors, and claims of reverse-engineered alien technology. Now, because of the reputation, even ordinary events near the base tend to draw unusual attention. However, understand that if you go and you cross those lines, which you're not supposed to cross, you can be arrested, or even worse, leave it alone. This is but that's what they're having. They're actually having these crazy things going on there, and no one knows why. Yeah, Area 51 is no joke at all. Now, this is exciting. I wish I could have found it. There has been a record-breaking Viking coin hoard discovered in Norway. A remarkable archaeological discovery in eastern Norway is being described as one of the most important Viking Age finds ever uncovered in the country. The discovery began by chance on April the 10th, when two metal detectors were searching a field near the village of Rena and found around 19 old coins. Realizing the find could be significant, they contacted local archaeologists who came to examine the site more carefully. And what they found was far larger than anyone expected. As the archaeologists continued investigating the field, more coins began to appear, then more. And before long, the team realized they were dealing with a major buried hoard. So far, nearly 3,000 coins have been recovered. And experts believe there are still many more additional artifacts waiting to be found. Why can't I find these things? I mean, that's pretty cool. That is pretty neat. Yeah, I mean, that's like, yeah, where do I find this? Where do I sign up for this? Okay. We're going to put the rest of these. Here's one that's really interesting. This is a problem. Yeah, everyone, thank you very much for the gifts. I appreciate that. For those of you who are offering gifts on the TikTok, I appreciate on the TikTok. I just turn right around and gift our friends, the MKS Kids Foundation. So thank you very much. Did you hear about the stolen chemical spraying drones in New Jersey? Well, thank you. Authorities are reportedly investigating the theft of 15 agricultural drones. And these are not little hobby drones used for pictures. These are industrial drones designed to spray liquids over large areas, usually for farming. In the right hands, they can spray fertilizer, pesticides across fields with precision. But in the wrong hands, well, that becomes a serious concern. And some agricultural drones can carry large amounts of liquid and follow programmed GPS routes. And that means they could potentially be misused to spray harmful substance, contaminate an area, and target a large public gathering. Now, to be clear, there's no evidence that anything like this has happened, but the concern is what someone could do if they found this technology. Oh, that's great. So yeah, we're going to just steal 15 great big large drones. How do you lose 15 large industrial drones in the first place? Yeah, it's like, really? That is crazy. Also, did you know that some paranormal experiences might not be caused by ghosts at all, but by sound you cannot even hear? So researchers have been studying whether certain vibrations in old buildings and basements and so-called haunted locations could create feelings of fear, uneasiness, even the sense that someone is watching you. In one study of McEwen University of Edmonton, Alberta, researchers placed 36 people in a room and had them listen to either calming music or unsettling music. But there was something that participants did not know. Hidden speakers were also producing a very low frequency sound, about 18 hertz, and that is below the normal range of human hearing. Well, the people exposed so that the sound showed higher cortisol levels, which is connected to stress. And they also reported feeling more irritable. In other words, their bodies were reacting to something they could not hear. And that raises a fascinating question. When people walk into an old house and suddenly feel dread or pressure, anxiety, the sense of a presence, could it be sometimes caused by vibrations from pipes, machinery, air systems, the building itself? Well, I would say yes, especially with high EMF. Now, EMF stands for electronic magnetic field. So if you have high EMF readings, that can cause dizziness, a sense of dread, even oppression, sick to your stomach. There's a lot of things high EMF readings can cause. As a matter of fact, some people are convinced, and you're not going to change their minds. Some people are convinced that the 5G towers are emitting such EMF readings that it causes people to have physiological issues, hallucinations. That's right. So there's a lot of argument that these things are true, and we don't know, but they are. There's so many people experiencing these things, aren't they? Right. And now there are some. Do you remember? Oh no, I want to talk about this because this is really important. I had when I reported this about over a month or so ago. Of course, a troll said, "Well, what's the big deal about that? Why are you wasting time on that story?" Anyway, it was a story about these scientists disappearing. There are more and more of these scientists disappearing. Have you heard about this story? And no one knows why. There was the general that just completely disappeared, left everything. And what's interesting is all of these people are people who have dealt with nuclear weaponry, ufology. I mean, something is going on here. But as a matter of fact, I think it was in nuclear scientists. It was in the news recently. So something is very, very strange. Oh, you heard that scientists are really in China are missing as well. That is weird. Now, I don't know if you've heard this story, but there were mysterious seed packets just showing up in people's mail. And people were thinking, oh, what is this? Well, they went away for a while. Mysterious seed packets are showing up in the mail again. This time it's happening in Delaware. A few years ago, people in several states, including Washington, Utah, Virginia, reported receiving strange packets of seeds they never ordered. Then it happened again in Texas. Now officials say Delaware residents are receiving similar packages. The Delaware Department of Agriculture is warning people not to open the packets and definitely not to plant the seeds. The concern is that these seeds could be invasive species, which can damage local crops, spread rapidly, cause serious problems for the environment. The mystery is who is sending them and why. In a previous case, Texas Agricultural Commissioner Sid Miller said the seeds appear to be coming from China, may have been connected to people ordering items from sites like Temu. They did not order the seeds, but the seeds arrived in separate shipment. So this is just a strange shipping scam, or is there something else going on? Either way, officials are giving one very clear message. If a mysterious packet of seeds show up in your mailbox, do not open it, do not plant it, and report it to authorities, the police, immediately. I don't like that at all. I really do believe that that is nefarious. I don't believe this is accidental. If it was accidental, then you wouldn't have so many people from so many places where agriculture is very important. Something I think nefarious is occurring. So I want to know, what are these seeds? And hopefully we'll find out one day. But we need to do this. We need to find out what's going on here. And I'm hoping that we do. Come on, government, tell us what's going on, because it's very strange. Very, very, very strange. Very strange, I think so. Okay, for those of you listening to this on podcast, we say good night to you guys. Yeah, it goes by fast. I tell you what, it goes by fast. We have about 4 minutes before we wrap up the presentation. So let's go ahead and do the, let me close this out and put this up here for you. 1 second. That way you can listen to this later if you want to. All right, publish. And what you do is go to my website, bishopjameslong.com, and you click on the podcast link. If you click on the podcast link, just look up Sacred Division. Sacred Division. And keep in mind, I would love to know, I would really appreciate, send me some ideas. You know, I've been doing this for 23 years. And after you've been doing it for 23 years, you pretty much have done every single topic in the paranormal, demonology, supernatural field, every single one. But I would love to know from you. So if you guys are watching me on this computer here, send me a message on Messenger. Go to bishopjameslong.com, scroll down to where it says official social media links, and you'll see Book to the Face. Click that and send me a message. Give me some ideas. You have some topics that you want me to maybe investigate, research, and do a presentation. I always teach. I always do a presentation. You guys are giving all of us your time. We're all giving each other our time. So I always like to teach something with the demonology, supernatural, paranormal. So remember, it's paranormal. It needs to be demonology, paranormal related, supernatural related. We do theology 6 days a week. So this must be paranormal, demonology, supernatural related. For you guys on TikTok, send me a message. I would love to know. Absolutely love to know if there's a particular topic you want me to do some research on. Yep, now we've done Appalachian before. We'll do it again, but send me a message. Send me a message, okay? And then we'll have it. So remember, everybody, at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to come right back on air for our night prayer. And hopefully you'll join us. We would love to pray with you guys. But until then, remember, your value does not decrease based on someone's inability or refusal to see your worth. You are priceless, and do not let anybody tell you or convince you otherwise. Good night.